Are you done packing yet? Please, make it quick. We plan to remodel your rooms once you move out." My oldest son's wife, Sarah, said impatiently, not even offering to help us pack. She seemed thrilled to claim this house as their own. Little did she know. Glancing at my husband, John, he silences me with a look and turns a serene smile to Sarah. "We're sorry for keeping you waiting. We'll leave by tomorrow. With the movers coming in, it'd be best if you two stayed in your rooms." We were leaving the furniture and appliances that we shared with Sarah and David behind, and beside our stuff from the bedroom and wardrobe, we didn't have much left to pack. We'll probably take less than half an hour to move out. The following day, our farewell was surprisingly dry. "Well, we're off." "All right. Take care." No apologies, no words of gratitude, and they didn't see us off either. Sarah and David simply glanced at us from their leisure in the living room. Since they were so indifferent, we didn't need to make a fuss about leaving. But as we got into the cab silently, I couldn't help but worry about our cat we were leaving with them. Could Sarah properly care for her? Would she raise her with affection? I dialed a number on my phone as our house receded from view through the cab's window. In hindsight, it might have been my sixth sense that ticked off then. "I'm Patricia, 64. I've been married to John, who's a year older than me, for 35 years. We've never had a major fight, and I would say we're pretty close. John worked for a foreign company and was often busy, but he always spent his spare time with the family. With his recent retirement, I was excited to spend more time with him. But it seems like I was the only one happy about his retirement. Our eldest son's wife was upset about it, and it was apparent. David and Sarah had been living with us in our house for a year now, since their marriage. Sarah, David's wife, was actually the one who suggested we live together. We have a subway station nearby, and with a well-developed public transportation in our area, commuting to work and going for shopping is pretty easy, which is why Sarah loved our place. My husband John and I had initially been reluctant, considering they were newlyweds, but we eventually gave in, leading to our current situation. Not even in our wildest dreams did we think things would turn out this way. "What on earth are you thinking?" That was one day about 2 months after John retired from his company. Just as I had returned from shopping, I heard John's booming voice and froze. In the living room, John was scolding our eldest son, David, who was sitting on the couch. It was unusual to find John this angry since he's usually calm and gentle. "What's going on?" With a heavy sigh, John turned to me. "David was rummaging through my bag and stealing money from my wallet." "What?" "Apparently he lost big on a trifecta bet at the Kentucky Derby and is strapped for cash." With that, John snatched a few dollar bills and his wallet from David's hand. It was indeed John's wallet. I was sure of it because I had given it to him as a gift on our 20th wedding anniversary. The fact that David was holding the wallet and money was undeniable proof that what John said was true. "David, didn't you quit wagering on horses? You lost big before and swore you'd never do it again, so why?" Whether he heard me or not, David just continued to watch TV without responding. Ever since he was a child, he would often ignore us when we lectured him or talked about something that didn't interest him. There are times that he doesn't remember the things I've told him verbally. This time was no different, and it seemed my pleas had no effect. However, even without an answer from David, I had a hunch about why he had started betting on horse racing again. Oh, it must be Sarah. David never cared about horse racing to begin with. He would never stoop so low as to take money from someone else's wallet, and he had never committed any crime like shoplifting. If I asked what caused such a drastic change in David, who was a hard-working office worker, I would answer without a doubt. It was meeting Sarah. Sarah is a bright and active woman. When we were first introduced to her, I hoped she would help bring David, who was introverted, out of his shell. but back then I never knew about her hobby, that she was a huge fan of horse racing, and that her sense of spending is completely off kilter. "You heard your mother talking, so why don't you at least say something?" said my frustrated husband as he turned off the TV. At that, David finally opened his mouth. "Shut up. I've paid you back, so stop nagging me. Besides, what's got you so worked up about a couple of $100 bills? What?" "I was actually surprised at how light your wallet was. You've really gone downhill, haven't you, Dad?" "Well, I'm retired, so what did you expect?" "How lame." With that, David left the living room. I almost tried to stop him, but my husband held me back. "I'm at fault too for carelessly leaving my wallet around. Besides, repeatedly scolding him isn't going to help. But his attitude is far too unacceptable. This is too much." John has never been the kind of person to flaunt his role as the main breadwinner of the family, but it's a plain fact that it's thanks to him that we are able to maintain our lifestyle, and he provides for David and his wife as well. They're able to save on rent and living expenses as well, since they always come up with an excuse not to contribute to the household's expenses. So it's my husband who's been covering majority of our expenses. And yet, instead of respecting John, David disparaged him. David's comments were unacceptable, but I was also enraged with his wife for introducing him to gambling. A few days later, still feeling uneasy, I decided to ask David's wife directly. "It seems like David is struggling with money lately. Do you know anything about it?" "Oh, he apparently took a big hit at the Kentucky Derby." "You knew about it?" "Yeah. After all, I was the one who suggested we go together." Just as I thought, sure enough, David had been drawn back in to horse racing by Sarah. Why would you do such a thing? David was trying to quit horse racing. "Is that so? I had no idea." "Please, Sarah, I'm begging you not to invite David to the horse races anymore. If this keeps up, won't you be in trouble too?" "Well, we each have our own earnings and we're just doing what we like, so I have no problem with it." I was taken aback by her reply. Certainly both David and Sarah, as a couple, were earning their own money, and they could spend it on whatever as long as they had food, rent, and clothing covered. But you two are a married couple, right? You might even have kids in the future, for their sake as well. "We've decided not to have children. We don't want to give up the things we love just to be tied down raising a kid." I was shocked again by her response. There was too much information to process all at once, but in a way it made sense. Having children would require you to have more savings by tens of thousands of dollars, which is probably why they can be so careless with money. But even without children, a married couple is still a married couple. But as a couple, you should support each other when in trouble, right? David is in trouble right now. "Well, why don't you, Patricia, and the rest of the family help him out? You're his parents and well off, right?" "Oh, are you living off your pension now? But you had your retirement fund, didn't you?" "My husband worked for a foreign company, so we don't have a retirement fund." "Really? That's a bummer. I thought you had a nice retirement payout." "We don't. So I need you and David as a couple to be more financially responsible. To be honest, the living expenses are already quite a burden and we can't afford to cover for you guys anymore." "Isn't that David's fault for losing? I can't take responsibility for that. But anyway, we can't right now." I was unable to secure a promise to support David and found myself ejected from David and Sarah's room. A week passed and David's financial problems remained unsolved. Was he so desperate that he had to pilfer money from his parents' wallet? Shouldn't we help him before he resorts to illegal activity? I discussed it over and over with my husband John, but in the end, this was the result of us spoiling him in the past. John convinced me that we needed to be firm this time for his future's sake, and I had to agree. We were providing him breakfast and dinner, and he had a pass for commuting to work. The goal was simply to have him make it until his next paycheck, but then the situation took an unexpected turn. It happened on a weekend night as we finished our dinner and were relaxing in the living room as usual. Ding dong. Our doorbell rang, but we weren't expecting any visitors, so I approached the front door to see who was visiting us this late at night. I opened the door, wondering if I had a package scheduled for delivery, only to be taken aback. Standing there was Sarah. Apparently, she couldn't open the door as her hands were full with a cardboard box. "What's going on? What's this box for?" As I hurriedly took the box from her, a rustling sound echoed from within, causing me to let out a scream. In an instant, the box opened, and I found myself face to face with the animal inside. It was a cat. "Isn't it cute? I found it abandoned on my way home," Sarah said with a proud grin. I was momentarily stunned, but I quickly remembered the gravity of the situation and yelled toward the living room. "John, go to our bedroom and shut the door immediately." I then closed the box and pushed it back toward Sarah. "Sarah, I'm sorry, but we can't keep a cat in our house." "Huh? Why's that?" I explained to the confused Sarah that my husband John has a severe cat allergy. In addition to developing inflammation upon contact with cat saliva, he also suffers asthma-like symptoms when inhaling cat hair or dander. There was even a time in the past when he was rushed to the hospital because David had returned from a friend's house who had cats, with his clothes covered in fur. I thought I had already told Sarah about this when we started living together, but she seemed to have forgotten. "So what are you saying? Do you want me to take it back where I found it? In this cold weather, it'll die." I was at a loss for words at Sarah's statement. I don't dislike cats. I couldn't possibly tell her to return it to the freezing cold outside. However, I can't expose my husband to danger either. "All right, you can keep it in your room for tonight, but just for tonight. Tomorrow we'll contact an animal shelter and ask them to take it in." I thought that at the very least an animal shelter would provide temporary refuge for the cat. Sarah reluctantly nodded in agreement to my suggestion. I told my husband and son about it, and they agreed to let the cat stay in John and Sarah's room for the night. However, things didn't go as smoothly as expected. The next morning, John and Sarah changed their minds and decided to keep the cat. "Sarah, that's not what we agreed on." "But I really want to keep it. It's so cute. Why can't I keep it?" "Because your dad is allergic to cats. He'll be fine, as long as he doesn't touch it, right? We'll take good care of it. Please?" "You won't be home during work, right? Who will take care of it then?" "Can't you do it?" "I can't, which is why I'm telling you that we can't keep it." "How terrible. I didn't know that even you can be so inconsiderate. Unable to even save a small and cute kitten. Animal shelters, they end up euthanizing them, you know. Handing it over to such a place just because it's inconvenient for you. Turning a blind eye to the sacrifice. Do you know what they call people like you? A boomer." "What?" "You're just a nuisance. If you can't live with this kitten, then please leave this house immediately." I was about to snap back at her, but David chimed in. "It's a good opportunity. Why don't you guys move into a retirement home? It might be comfortable. You're at that age and we're not taking care of you guys. You guys aren't even bringing in any income anymore." "I've had enough, you guys." "Fine." Suddenly, my husband, who had been silently listening to our argument, interrupted me. Since last night's incident, he's been wearing gloves and a mask and keeping a distance from David and his wife. I felt sorry for making him feel uncomfortable at his own home. "The reason we can't keep the cat is my fault. I will take your advice and leave." "John," as David said, "this might be a good opportunity to consider moving into a retirement home." Saying that, John looked at me. Understanding his intentions, I remained silent. David and his wife probably took this as us giving up on our house. They suddenly became more cocky. "We'll take good care of this house, so don't worry, but keep the property under your name. The paperwork and payments are a pain. Moving into a retirement home can be quite expensive, you know. Please handle yourselves. Don't rely on us. We aren't helping." They seem relieved, even joyful at our compliance. This must be their true nature. Perhaps they picked up that kitten on purpose, hoping for this to happen. I realized that we had been manipulated by Sarah. For the following week, I began packing while looking out for John. David and his wife, who had lost all reserve, continued to throw veiled insults at us. But they probably realized that if John collapsed, our move-out would only get delayed. So they did not let the cat out of their room. That was the only promise they kept. "Are you done packing yet? Please make it quick. We plan to remodel your rooms once you move out," Sarah said impatiently, not even offering to help us pack. It seemed they couldn't wait to make this house their own. They really don't know anything, do they? I glanced at my husband, but he silently calmed me down and gave a gentle smile to Sarah. "We're sorry for keeping you two waiting. We'll leave by tomorrow. With the movers coming in, it'd be best if you two stay in your rooms." We were leaving the furniture and appliances that we shared with Sarah and David behind. And beside our stuff from the bedroom and wardrobe, we didn't have much left to pack. I bet it won't even take 30 minutes to move everything out. And came the next day. Our farewell was surprisingly dry. "Well, we're off." "All right. Take care." No apologies. No words of gratitude. And they didn't see us off either. Sarah and David simply glanced at us from their leisure in the living room. Since they were so indifferent, we didn't need to make a fuss about leaving. But as we got in the cab silently, I couldn't help but worry about our cat we were leaving with them. Could Sarah properly care for her? Would she raise her with affection? I dialed the number on my phone as our house receded from view through the cab's window. In hindsight, it might have been my sixth sense that ticked off then. I did have some concerns about our life after moving out, but things became much easier for me. After all, we had 2 less people to worry about. Everything from meals to making choices, I only had to put in half the effort I used to make. No need for considerations or worries. I felt like I had regained the freedom I had before David got married. About a week into this new daily routine, I received a call from Sarah one evening. After getting my husband's approval, I answered the call. Suddenly, a frantic voice echoed from the other end of the line. "Sarah." "Patricia, what's going on? Power and gas have been cut off." It seemed that she had just gotten home. She was so flustered that the call had accidentally switched to video, but all that could be seen on the screen was the light from a flashlight moving around in a pitch-black room. I couldn't see her face. "That's because we canceled the contract for our utility bills. Of course they'd be off." "What? What do you mean? Why did you cancel them? Are you trying to get us in trouble? Are you doing this because we kicked you out?" "Sarah, calm down. Is David there?" Sarah, somewhat pacified by my husband's calm voice, responded, "He just got home." David seemed to be having a mild panic attack at the sight of their pitch-black house. We waited for them to calm down before my husband explained the truth. "We've actually sold the house. The new owner has been decided and the handover date is coming up soon. That's why we canceled our utilities contract." "Sold? We weren't told about this. Were you going through the process without telling us? We live here." I couldn't help but interrupt Sarah, hearing her entitled claim. "I did tell David about the contract and the handover date, even the progress." However, judging by Sarah's reaction, it was clear that David had not passed the message on to her. Rather, he may not even remember what he was told, given his habit of not listening. Over the past few months, the house had been in chaos due to meetings with real estate agents and potential buyers. David and Sarah, who are hardly home during the day, must have been oblivious to all this. There were plenty of chances for them to notice what was going on, but they missed them all. They simply never cared about what went on in the house, and that's on them. "So I assumed you guys would move out soon after we did. Have you not moved out yet?" I decided to ask, feigning ignorance. Immediately, a quarrel erupted on the other end of the line. Accusations were thrown around. "It's your fault. I didn't know. We've been fooled," and so on. The image of David and Sarah arguing in the dark was both surreal and amusing. However, once their argument ended, David and Sarah turned their frustration back on us. Even so, isn't it overbearing to proceed with this without our consent? I don't remember agreeing to this. Well, I did get a reply. When I asked if it was okay to sell the house, you said, yeah, sure. Technically, all I received was an absent-minded response from David, who was watching TV at the time. Still, he agreed to it. It's his fault for not listening and giving careless responses. When I told him, David was momentarily speechless. But then he seemed to have a change of heart and shouted loudly, "Ah, enough! I get it! So what are we supposed to do?" "What do you mean, what are you supposed to do?" "Where are we supposed to live? Where do we go now? You've prepared a place for us, right?" At David's yelling, my husband asked back in a puzzled voice, "Why?" Our son was taken aback by this answer. "You kicked us out. Why do we have to find you a new place?" "But we really didn't kick you out. You were planning to leave anyway, right? So it's not our fault. At all. Besides, it was your decision to sell the house. It's your responsibility to secure housing for us since we are affected by this." "Yeah, that's right. For a rental, you pay some amount for leaving. Then you gotta pay us some money too. I know you made a lot from selling the house." "Rental, huh? Before paying you any vacating fee, you should pay us the rent for the period you were living in that house, shouldn't you? Plus, we covered all your living expenses too. Let's have you pay all of that up front. Including rent and living expenses, it'll be about $7,000 for a year. You can pay it right now, can't you?" David and his wife remained silent, with a groan. Considering David's financial situation, we're well aware that they are tight on money. Realizing that we had the upper hand, David started apologizing to appease us. "Haha, that's right, we should be the ones to pay first. But we don't have the money right now, so we can't. So to make sure we can pay you back properly, why don't we live together again?" "Yeah, that's right. Please tell us where you're moving to. We'll move in with you guys right away." They never cared about where we were moving to when we left. I sneered at them deep down and I refused. "No, we can't live with a cat. Wasn't that the reason you kicked us out? We'll get rid of the cat right away, so..." I felt deeply sorry for the cat at their excessively selfish words. As expected for David and his wife, the cat was nothing more than a tool to kick us out of the house. As long as it benefits you, you're willing to put others' needs over your wants. Doesn't that make you a boomer? When they had their own words thrown back at them, Sarah started to cry. But we have no obligation to be swayed by their tears. Besides, the place we moved into is an apartment for the elderly, so young people like you can't live there. You're the ones who suggested it, remember? Saying we should go to a nursing home? As you said, it's very comfortable. Don't worry, my husband and I will live happily here. After talking over them, I hung up. All I could hear from the phone was David and Sarah crying. In the end, we never heard an apology from them. Soon after that, the young couple left the house. Apparently, they had no savings, and they both declared bankruptcy and now live in public housing. When we returned to the house once for cleaning before handing it over, we were able to hear about David and Sarah from our friendly neighbor's wife. According to her, they had quite a hard time packing in a house without electricity, and as expected, they left the cat behind when they moved. Fortunately, I had asked the neighbor's wife to take care of the cat in advance, and she agreed. I offered to help her find a new owner for the cat, but she grew attached and decided to keep it. What was surprising was that David and his wife didn't get divorced. Those two are probably meant for each other. They might be eyeing on my husband's inheritance, but we picked a pretty nice apartment, so by the time we pass away, there will be hardly anything left. Finally, we were able to start living our life together as a couple without any interruption. The senior housing where we moved in has excellent services with a gym, karaoke, and pool. We even get served freshly made meals 3 times a day. And above all, there are many couples our age in the building. We have made a lot of new friends here, and we plan to enjoy our retirement years together.